If you look at like New York, right? Like they have a decentralized MLS and they sell a lot. And it's who you know that makes the biggest difference, right? And it became a game of networking and who do you know?
Right.
You know, who do you know that has houses? I would love it. I would thrive off that human connection piece because it makes it human powered.
Welcome to the Evolve Your Brand podcast, produced and owned by Icon Industries. I'm your host, Elia Merkes, and I am proud to have today Justin McCabe from the Brand Realty team at The Real Brokerage. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you, man.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to be a little selfish with you.
Yeah.
Do you know how come I'm excited to have you on?
You're a Padres fan. I don't know.
No, not at all. I'm actually really, that's a long story, but I'm really excited to have you on because like you have a very dialed in like brand, you know, and you know who you are, you know what your zone is. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. Like, where'd this come from? Where's the outgoing, the smile? There it is.
Yeah. Self-depreciation. That's my brand.
But some of the content recently just dying, like the lunch one. The lunch one was freaking hilarious where you can't, if you go with a real estate agent, you're never eating with them. Yeah. You're always. So let's jump into it. So where does your story begin?
Where's my story begin? Let's see. Where's my story begin? Orange County, California. I was born, adopted at birth. Yeah. Adopted at birth. My mom got a phone call, if you want me to go like way deep, right? Before cell phones were even around. So my neighbor was a labor and delivery nurse, my parents' neighbor at the time, labor and delivery nurse at St. Jude, which doesn't even, I think, have a labor and delivery ward anymore. It's for oncology. But she couldn't get hold of my parents, ended up doing the phone tree, called my aunt. There's a baby. Mom doesn't want him, you know. 2 days later, here I am, you know, at home with my new parents, and it was great. So that's where I start. That's my childhood. Started from there. Great parents. Grew up in Corona, California. Adopted. My parents are very Caucasian looking, so I was always, and my sister is as well. She's also adopted, and so I was like the darker skin one of the family. So I always had that distinction. I always felt right, like I was a part of them, and they always made me know it as well. You know, my mom was always like, "You're special. You're our son, but we didn't have you by birth," and so I always knew it wasn't like some shocking, overheard surprise at 18. You know, so great childhood, great family. Knew how to talk. I think I started in sales at like 17. Never looked back. So sold many different things, from pharmaceutical sales over the phone to pharmacies, independent generic wholesalers, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company, to medical devices in the OR with surgeons, like literally in the OR, to
that one unexpected. I can't see you doing pharmaceutical sales.
Yeah, no, sales. It's like as prim and proper as you always have to be. You're kind of irreverent behind the scenes. Right. So it kind of fit my vibe, you know, no matter what. So selling margaritas at Chili's, you name it. Like I did it. So,
well, you got the hustler feel. So what was what do you think is the life lesson? You know, you said you're adopted and you're smiling cheek to cheek. Like, what did you take away from that made you a better parent?
Maybe a better parent?
Yeah.
For me, I think just always being real with your kids. I think not about everything. There's some things that aren't appropriate age-wise, but I always appreciated. My parents always told me I was adopted, and it was part of who I was, and they really owned it. You know, I didn't have a crazy identity crisis like a lot of people have when they go haywire learning about their parents. I just recently met my birth father. He's a wonderful guy. The family's wonderful. He didn't know I existed. Yeah,
really?
Crazy. Yeah. Lived 4 minutes away from me my whole life. We didn't know.
No
crazy.
Way.
Yeah, looked at Christmas lights on my street.
Okay, I want to hear this story. So how did that transpire?
Ancestry DNA for the win. Yeah, my wife got me a kit for Christmas, like all good adoption stories started out, right? So I did that, and we wanted to just know my heritage and kind of my ethnicity and whereas, you know, DNA wise, where I was from. And so I'm a Spanish Mexican Jew, in case you're wondering. Uh, so follows all the trade lines, right? Like
Okay.
Israel to Spain, kicked out of Spain to Mexico, Mexico to the U.S. So just followed all
The
the
migration.
followed all the kickouts. So
Well, welcome. I'm glad you made it.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. So ended up I think we finished up where I saw Mazatlan and then like Jalisco and then into the US. So if I followed those, which are really cool if you've ever done it, following like the DNA trade lines basically of where your DNA migration happened. It's really cool. Like
Okay.
you could see they went in through like Jalisco to like New Mexico and then California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So yeah, so we did that, and then me being me, I'm like, I have no emotional holes to fill. I'm great, right? I did it. I'm like, cool, awesome. I'm a Spanish Mexican Jew. Great to know. A little bit of Basque built in there, and you know, when you log on, there's like, it feels like there's like 900 distant cousins. You know,
Right.
and then at some point you're like, yeah, whatever. I don't know your beliefs or theology. But I'm like, I think we all came from like two people, so that's great. Of course, we're all going to be related somehow. Well, come to find out in there, I made my profile public and then like was like, see ya, you know, peaced out, you know, because I didn't care. I found out what I was. But I left the app alone. But it turns out like my second cousin was on there, like people very close genetically. And they were like freaking out about it because they're like, they went back to one of my uncles and said, hey, one of you guys has a kid. That's how close it was. And I was like, oh, awesome. Cool. I'm related to a bunch of people, whatever, you know, and took off and lived my life. And 2 months later, they're all like left holding this bag going, oh my gosh, like this kid just surfaced DNA wise, you know,
And nobody has a clue.
and I'm like not responding to anything or like, I'm just like happy as can be. Didn't care about the app at all. And they're all like, you know, so poor family, but, ended up, they found me, funny enough, my aunt. So I've 3 uncles, 1 aunt, 1 birth father. And my aunt was like, you're really easily findable because you're a real estate agent. So we just found your number and called you, you know? So they saw my name and then she Googled and like, oh, cool. So like he was in Riverside. I got a random call on a Sunday. My daughter and I had stayed home from church. So she was like mildly sick. So then later that day, the whole family sitting around a table playing a board game in our pajamas and stuff. And I get this text and it's like, hey, this is, you know, blank from Ancestry DNA. Do you have a minute to talk? And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Sure. Why not? So I went and told my wife, I'll be back. Went upstairs, closed my office door. You know, we've talked about my office. It's mostly soundproof just from the sound dampening, just from having the studio in there. Close the door so she can't hear anything. And I'm on the phone, talk to them. And it's my aunt, my uncle. And he had done a DNA test. And at the time, he had already known by the time he called me, he was my uncle.
Okay.
And she was obviously my aunt, not my dad. So both of them were like, yep, not my kid, right? So they called and they're like, hey, that means that one of my brothers is your dad's, like, sweetie. Like, are you? And I was like, oh, okay, got it. She's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. We had a great conversation. It was a little stunted, but normal. Right? Meeting your birth family for the first time. Yeah, I got off the phone and I like bawled for like 15 seconds maybe. And that was it. I've never cried about that since. I'm not really a crier. So like, you know, I'm like, oh, okay. That was it. That was strange.
What hit you?
I don't know. It was just like an overwhelming emotion. It wasn't even like one positive, negative. It's just emotion. It's just like, what do you do with this? And your body's just like, have a good cry. I don't know. You know? So punch a wall, cry. I don't know.
Right.
Pick one, you know? So it's like, cry. So 15 seconds when I was like, how you doing? I'm like, whew, that was weird. And I was like, I'm good. She was like, you're such a guy. I'm like, I mean, I'm fine now. I have my 15 seconds, you know? But yeah, ended up talking with some of the brothers throughout as they all went and got tested, you know, and they had a thread going, who's your daddy? And it was kind of funny. And
I'm
yeah.
sorry. They had a thread going, who's your daddy?
Yeah. They're all close, man. It's great. It's just like a huge family. You know, I came from a smaller, compact family, and they are just, I went to my biological grandma's 91st birthday 3-4 weeks ago with my boys. It was a small family gathering and there was like 25 people. I was like, oh yeah, this is like 3 times my family size, even for a small gathering. So yeah, it's been a great experience. I have 2 half brothers. There's my brothers, consider my brothers. My birth father, his wife is great. My parents have met them.
Really?
You know, my parents are sweet people. They live like 4 or 5 minutes away from me and my wife, and they came over and met them, and he just thanked them. He's a great guy. He takes a lot of pride in being a good father. And so he was crushed to hear that he was kind of robbed of that because I'm his oldest. So he had me really young, would have had me really young. He was in the army. So yeah, it's been a great experience. It's been great to get to know them. Obviously you're doing some of those awkward, everyone's trying to find their boundaries. It's not like we're walking on eggshells, but I think everyone's trying to be really respectful, and he's not trying to take over anything, but he's trying to be part of my life, and I would like him to. And, making your parents feel loved at the same time,
Seriously.
So it's just that delicate balance, but it's been a great experience so far. And he's made it really easy. His wife has been awesome too. She's great.
When did all this happen?
Like 4 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's recent.
Very recent. Yeah, absolutely.
How many kids do you have?
We have 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your wife's name?
My wife's name is Janae. I was thinking of the joke when we make the joke. I have 3 that I know of, but that's a joke. I have 3 kids. My wife goes, wow, I mean, yeah, you could have had it. And she's like, yeah, I mean, judging like your history wise, like you could have a kid in like a freshman in like college you don't know about right now. And I'm like, stop it. Just stop. I'm 35. Like, stop. Maybe we edit that. I don't know. But yeah, so it's been a really great experience getting to know them. And my wife has loved it too. Some of the similarities, it's crazy,
Really, you can tell.
Oh yeah, my aunt and I look like twins. I mean, I hope I have her DNA, obviously, but I hope I have her genetics from the standpoint of looking that young for that long. I was like, how do we look within 5 years of each other? She's my aunt, but yeah, we look identical. Female male version, and then like all of our eyes. You look across the first photo we ever took, and like literally all my brothers. My birth father, my uncle, my aunt, we're all just like exactly the same eyes, So
have you seen have you observed like mannerisms? And you're like, dude, I do that.
Yeah, and more so mindset, I would say, because
really?
So like COVID brought out in me that I'm like, I despise diehards on either side because I think they're so ignorantly blind. I'm just being totally honest here, and maybe people don't like me, but that's just the truth. I think diehard politics, I think it's just so blind leading the blind. I think it's just so you just disengage your mind a lot of the time, versus if you're a little bit more moderate, or you take a step back from a party affiliation or a person or personality, and you really think through what the ethics of a scenario, what's right and wrong, lots of things that go into it. Where is this going to take us choice wise? So I'm very temperate. I'm very moderate on that sense. Now people will tell you when it comes to like hobbies and obsessions, like I'm obsessive, but when it comes to like political views and like how the world changes, I think we should be a lot slower how we think through those things. And he's so much like that. When my birth father and I sat down, you would think that one of the topics we wouldn't talk about, like on our 3rd meeting ever, would be politics. It was so enjoyable and natural. It was like, oh, I found someone who's like temperate and moderate and thinks like me. Not even thinks like me. We probably disagree on a lot.
Right.
But just in how we process information, I'm a lot less like, oh, there's 100 people believing that. Let me just jump right in the middle and believe it. That's not me. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm probably wrong about a ton. But I definitely am like a step back. Let me see. Pull the string. Where's that going to take us? Like I'm a lot more like that. And so COVID was hard because we all know that was like the 2 years of just absolute ideological differences just coming out as a country. Right. So that was not an enjoyable time from that standpoint for me. Many reasons why for everybody, why it wasn't enjoyable. But for me, it was those false dichotomies, and really a lot of that was very destructive. And so he was very similar in that. So it was cool to see someone who really, it was like a mind meld. It was like, we're just so comfortable with each other, And
you have that connection.
Yeah. And that's weird because I never had that. Right. So I have the absolute nurture. Like my parents are great, but I never had like staring into someone else's eyes, and that's your DNA. Right. So
you're very fortunate.
Yeah.
Like you have
huge
2, like, it seems like incredible family, and now your just family got bigger.
Yeah, my wife calls it the bonus family. We had a friend that got remarried, and he had kids and she had kids, and she calls them her bonus kids. She'll never call them her step kids, and we love that. So
that's great, man.
Yeah,
that's I'm sitting here just trying to take it all in. I'm like, what a crazy story in 3 months. Like, all you did was just go get his DNA test.
Right. Yeah. And then ditch the app for a couple months while they stewed in misery over it. I felt so bad. Like, oh man, I totally just passed the buck and was like, see ya. No idea.
So, you grew up in Orange County, and then, I'm sorry, you were born in Orange County. You grew up in Corona.
Right.
Where'd you go to school and stuff?
I was homeschooled.
You were homeschooled?
Yeah. I did homeschooling. Was homeschooled. Did some stuff with public school as far as like high school goes, taking classes and some of those things. But yeah, I was homeschooled all the way through. I ended up going to like junior college early and doing some of that as well. I did end up having a little bit of trouble as a kid, probably about 14. So I had some juvenile problems. Like I ran away a couple times.
Okay.
And I got involved in drugs and alcohol really early. And so as much as I had loving parents, I still, you can only do so much for a kid, so I made my own choices and they were pretty bad. So I did that for a while and lived in my own idiocy and, sin and then ended up, becoming a Christian about 18, a little bit over 18. And, yeah, like my life, I didn't have I had a massive turnaround on some things, but other things took a little while for me to straighten out.
And what was unlearn. One of the things? What was one of the things that took a while?
Yeah, so drugs and alcohol were a big thing for me, right? And dating around and some of those things, we'll call it dating around, will be nice on the podcast. And yeah, it took a little while for some of those to go away. Hard drugs were gone. That was right away. And my parents were so great with me of just being so loving and patient after the fact. I wasn't living at home for a while and then I had something happen and I ended up moving back home. My parents were loving and gracious and they were always super accepting. And they were probably the biggest example of love of Jesus of just hey, there's rules in our house, but just know we always love you. You might not even always be welcome here because of some of the things that you do. Mm-hmm. And we can't, those aren't compatible with, my dad was those aren't compatible with our home, but you're always loved. And there's always a place for you if you fit within not even judgmental standards, but just normal human being standards that any of us would want to feel safe around our kids. Right. So yeah, I just ended up having a 360 there. Had some community service to do from some past mistakes and ended up getting with my parents' church and doing community service through that and just having some really great mentors and, yeah, just really got clean. Got sober, not sober now. I love bourbon. That's great. But hey,
noted.
Yeah, there you go. So, and I'm middle-aged, so who doesn't like a good seltzer or something? 'Cause we don't want to gain the weight. So
thank you. You got to keep your figure intact, man. You can't be getting on your brand, not keeping your figure.
Right. At some point too, it's so funny, right? Cause when does that change that before it was just and you could just do your thing. Now you're is it worth it? What's this going to equate to in poundage? Now I'm I don't know if it's worth it today because, I already have one or whatever.
Good for you. I equated it into how much do I have to work out to drink, to make up for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I don't want to. Well, when I'm on the workout side, because I'll go hot and cold. I'm about to go hot again on it, but for a 6 to 8 week cycle. But
get it
with that, right? You're just the protein synthesis to your muscles and that stuff. Even if I'm not gaining weight, I'm not training my body. I'm blocking my body, especially after working out. If I drink alcohol, so typically on those times, I'll usually reduce to close to nothing, maybe a Sunday or something. But
okay.
But yeah, if I'm not, that's where I fall off the wagon, and I'm man. I just feel sluggish.
Yeah.
I
get it.
So, but yeah, we eat pretty clean. So I'm fortunate for that I'll have other health mistakes, but at least we eat really clean. So
who's the cook?
We both are. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. My wife does the majority of the heavy lifting on that side of it. She actually homeschools our kids. She's so smart.
She's a saint.
Oh, she's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. She's great. Our kids are so curious. They love learning. They're a top. She's got them spinning. But yeah, we both do. We had some health issues years ago, gut health stuff, and Tom Bilyeu and all those guys were harping on it. Yeah. And I was yeah, that's us. And we ended up putting our life kind of on hold. And I remember talking to, it's so crazy how it goes far back. Sharon Srivatsa is the president for Real. And
so smart.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And about 5 years ago, I think 5, 6 years ago, I just remember texting with him at the grocery store because he's also huge on health. I was texting him at the grocery store. My wife's in massive pain, gastrointestinal pain. And I'm what do I do? And he gave me this reset diet. I'm just I did it. He's been so helpful for us. And that's why I have such an appreciation for someone like Sharon. Cause I'm yes, he's the president of Real, but before that, he's the guy that helped me at 8 at night, talk to my, how to help my wife, heal her stomach. So, yeah, so that was awesome from that standpoint. But, Yeah, we just did a reset diet and we eat a lot of fish and salmon and basmati rice and,
Nice.
healthy carbs and, nothing bleached as we can help it, stuff like that. So that's been a great experience of just switching our diet around and understanding how to eat and what that does to you and understanding your macros and just on a basic level, right? Like someone's like, oh, I'm on a diet and they're like shoving fruit. And I'm like, it's like full of sugar. I mean, that's fine
Right.
if you choose to do that. But like there's not a lot of correlation, I think, for a lot of people on like even just the macro level, right? Like fats, carbs, proteins. It's like they don't know.
You know what I figured out is like everyone's body chemistry is so different. Like you got to experiment different things and see how your body reacts to it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say your family dynamic changed with the nutrition.
Totally.
Because it's like you teach them now.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
You only got one body.
Yeah. You don't want to get overly annoying with it though, right? Like you don't want like a 5-year-old being like, I can't eat that as nitrates.
Right.
So you're like, just stop, be a 5-year-old. Right?
Yeah, they gotta be kids, right?
At the same time, you do want to train them, right? Like, yeah, got it. Same for us. It equals freedom because you get to make informed choices. I could have junk food, but at least I know it's junk food, right? Like late at night, I could have lots of strawberries, but I also know it's sugar and I just have to be okay with that. So versus just, I don't know why I'm gaining weight. That's sad.
Justin, what's your favorite part about being dad?
Favorite part of being a dad.
Yeah.
It's almost a stumped question. I would love to say I love everything about it. Almost everything about it. I love now having kids that I can have conversations with and that I can see them learning reasoning skills. I can see them starting to think about spiritual things. I can see them start to understand how the world works. And I think that kind of nurturing that has been great. I think my wife homeschooling them has played a big piece of that. They ask great questions and they're really curious, and they know how to like articulate it. And so I enjoy that about them, just seeing their minds work and just seeing them grow and seeing their character. That's probably a huge thing, and building that into them.
What was the last great question? What of the mess? Do you remember?
Last great question. Yeah. We were at the Padres game last night and my 10-year-old son, we were talking about players and contracts. And he said, why is that player, why is he worth 350 million though over 10 years versus he's worth this? And they have similar, WAR and averages and stolen bases, whatever it might be. And just talking him through marketability and some of those things and longevity with a team. And so he just thinks a lot deeper about some of those things. So he's looking at players on the field, thinking about marketability.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
At 10.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, after that, the thought was gone and he went back to like, it's all about baseball and eating popcorn, but
it's, I totally get it. It was the joy that you had in your face that you said, they're asking great questions.
Yeah.
They're learning how to think.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's teaching them to go from questions like the Great Inquisition to like having conversations,
right?
Questions to conversations. That's a gap we're like trying to teach them now. Cause now they're very curious, but a lot of times it's almost like you're in front of a firing squad, 3 kids,
right?
A question every 15 seconds per kid. It's a lot. So we're teaching them like, hey, how to have a continuing conversation, right? Ollie, how are you today? Oh, great. What do you like about your day? Okay, cool. Tell me about that. Versus new question.
That's great that you guys are doing that because like I have 3 kids too. And, sometimes they're socially awkward. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably takes after me a little bit.
So
how old are your kids?
They're 17, 15, and Trevor will turn 13.
Okay.
This month. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We talked about this. So you're very close as far as when my kids are older, they'll be in a similar spot. So.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So what do you love about this age now versus like where mine are at 10, 8, 6?
Adulthood. they're to have your son drive you is interesting because you want to be nervous. And I connected with my dad. I'm like, wow, okay, no wonder he was freaking out. And they're just so incredible. My 17-year-old went and got a job on his own. I took him to meet some real estate agents at an open house, and he's working on starting his own business because he's tired of being, working at McDonald's. So I think that's you see their growth and their development and they're making their choices and you become a better parent and you're much more patient. And then it's being in the moment. That's the biggest thing as you get older. It's like being in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to do, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to teach them how to do that. There was a guy in my Bible study group at church, and he had told us, he said, start some of those stillness habits now. So for them, it's every Sunday they have spa night. Like they just turn the spa on and everyone goes out and they're in the spa talking about Sunday sermon. They're talking about the week, talking about the last week. They kind of just decompress as a family. And he's like, just once a week. It's just revolutionizes everything. And he's like, you just have a little moment. Yeah, people have their phones, but generally you're spending time with family. And, the boys knew too, once they got older, like the girlfriends are just like, oh, you got to come to family night. It's a spa. We're going to hang out. And he's like, we got to know their girlfriends and got to know the family. And they got to spend time with us and we invited them in, So if you kind of create those rhythms, because to what you just said too, right? Like they're going to get cars and drive and be in the four corners of the earth,
That's an amazing idea. I love that.
Yeah.
That's duly noted.
Right.
Learn that on the show.
Well, then you hear like gas prices back in the, the last couple of months and you're like, yeah, is there something else I can do? Like maybe a picnic or something like maybe we sit beside the spa.
Nice. What brought you, I mean, you've had a lot of sales experience. Like what landed you in doing real estate? Because you see a lot of real estate agents on, podcasts or on social media, and it's always talking about like houses.
Yeah.
You're passionate about this. Like I can tell just in the brief conversation, like,
right.
Where's your passion stem from?
So it has nothing to do with houses. I've always said if we could never sell another house again, I'd figure something else out to sell, because I love and I like people. Like I understand and I like fulfilling those needs and understanding where someone's at and getting to know the people in the same process. It's a contact sport, sales. So I was like, whether it's PVC pipe fittings or it's pharmaceuticals, legal pharmaceuticals, or it's or it's houses. It's like I love hearing a need and helping fill the need and strategizing how to make it happen. And so houses are a very complex sales cycle, right? And that's why I do love that aspect of it, is because it does take you can get a license in like 15 minutes in real estate. Realistically, it is probably the worst part of our industry that it's so incredibly easy. I think getting a food handler's card is about the same weight of intensity as getting a real estate license. That's why so many people have them and so many people are losing them now and getting out of the business, is because easy come, easy go, right? But actually learning your craft and actually being good at it are very different things. Understanding. I'm not talking about being an armchair economist, which a lot of agents have no business being, and they try to be. I think it's dumb and irresponsible a lot of times. Housing market's not going to go down. I'm like, I agree, but tell me why,
Okay. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. How come you said that? Because it's interesting.
Yeah, it's true though. I think a lot of agents make a lot of irresponsible assumptions and quite frankly, haven't had a lot of training on macro or microeconomics. They don't have an understanding of maybe supply demand, but is it going to go down? No, it's not going to go down at all. I'm like, how do you know? I mean, it's the worst thing to tell them. It could go down 3, 4, 5% potentially. Is it still an okay purchase for you? Don't be afraid of it. We just keep pumping out this, like everything's fine,
Is it?
Right. That's the question.
I asked it on your social media and you challenged me.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. Is it, generally, I think we're okay. It's crazy. It's a crazy paradox given all the inflation things going on and, frozen listings. And so we're seeing supply demand. Yes, we're seeing those things. Do people understand? Do agents understand why 2007 happened? I still don't think they do. I still don't think the majority of them even watch The Big Short. I'm like, just go watch a movie with Steve Carell and you'll be like way smarter. I promise. Like watch The Big Short, see what happened, So I think that to go back to it, I think what drew me to real estate was I'm a very obsessive person. People who know me will tell you that I really am. No matter what the hobby is, I'm like, let's go for it. Like I told my wife, like I really want to do backpacking when we were dating. It's like I'm going to do backpacking. I didn't just do backpacking. I did ultralight backpacking that was like sub 15 pounds for like a 2-day overnight trip, with a tarp for a tent. Like it was super fun, but it was kind of weird and it was obsessive and I loved it. I weighed all my stuff out on the scale. It was great.
I love it.
Yeah. Ultralight versus a guy coming up the hill, San Gregorio, just huge pack. I'm over there and just like going for a jog basically, I made a camp stove out of a cat can.
Really?
with heat from automobile heat. Yeah, you just pour heat in there, and it burns so hot it burns clear. And you could just boil noodles on it. It was great.
You really got into it.
Yeah, solely. But I'm like that with real estate too. I'm like that with the real estate world. I'm like that with all these things, and it's like hard for me to hold back, but I do with the client. You don't want to like overwhelm them at the curb.
Right.
I always tell them, hey, I'm going to give you the education. You're going to forget 70% of it, and I'm totally okay with it because we're going to just keep doing this. So little by little, So yeah. So why did I get into house sales? It's a complex sales cycle. You can be very consultative with your clients. And I had one of my best friends got me into the business. I was working at a pharmaceutical. I left a pharmaceutical sales company that I worked for in Corona. I worked for a company called Watson, which turned into Actavis and Allergan and now Pfizer. And yeah, okay, huge company.
Wow.
Worked for them in Corona, and then I ended up leaving there, going to work for a surgical device company, which was great. Again, another kind of field that you have to know a ton because you're literally in the OR with doctors as they're, doing ACL reconstructions and tendon replacements and Tommy John surgery and UCLs and elbows and, ligaments and all sorts of things, shoulder surgery, capsular reconstructions with human tissue, donor tissue, stuff like that. Amazing. They literally could replace your entire supraspinatus muscle between 3 ports. So, working port for a graft, and you're done. You have 3 little incisions and they literally replaced your entire top muscle. It's amazing, arthroscopically. But there was just some differences there. It wasn't really the industry for me. It worked nonstop. And it just wasn't my vibe. Just straight out wasn't for me. So was there about a year, got my real estate license, got into real estate with one of my friends. We since haven't kept doing business together, but we're still in the same brokerage together. We're friends. So, but yeah, ended up doing that and loved it. I think I sold 6 or 7 houses in my first 6 months. I remember my first open house. So great.
Do you?
Oh yeah. Well, first,
when was this? What year?
2017.
Okay.
I think 17 or 16. So, and I remember just sitting in open house and I was doing video then too, like even, just like in the kitchen, like, hey everyone, hey, thanks for coming to my open house. I really appreciate you, and sending it out. And I always found if you do an open house, you should do a video while you're at the house because people have seen probably 6 or 7. So they remember the kitchen. So if you just do this, versus like, hey, it's Justin, or like who? The house in Menifee, like which one? Like the one with the pool. We saw a couple of those versus just going, hey, and they're like, I remember you. Right. And I did that. And the first guy, I remember his name. I won't say it on here, but still a client to this day, reached out that night and was like, hey, we're actually just in town. I'm opening a new Mercedes dealership. I appreciate your hustle. Hustle recognizes hustle. I want you to be the guy for me. I want to buy a house tomorrow. We've got 6 or 7 picked out. Can you schedule them? I'm like, heck yes, I can schedule those, like getting it done. We went out Sunday, 11 a.m. We had them under contract by like 3 p.m. that day on a new build that was bonusing out because it was like a closeout. Right. And it was like, to this day, it is still one of my largest commissions I'd ever seen. Just boom.
This is after your first open house.
Yeah. Yeah. And first deal, period. And it closed in like 25 days, and I was just stoked, but I was even more stoked of just him. The cap for me was this person-to-person connection, him being like, I recognize hustle. That's so cool. I just want to validate you. And I want to validate what you're doing by choosing you as my agent. And I was like, great. I want to have everyone do that. Then I learned I don't really want everyone to do that because not everyone's your type of client. Right. But that was great. That got me hooked.
What clicked?
With him and me, or just
what clicked with that? Like once you saw, you did an open house, like this guy literally reached out to you.
Yeah.
Like what all clicked that real estate was the right path?
So I don't know if I'd ever say like that, right? That real estate was the right path. For me, for where I'm at now, like it totally is. But for me, it's the people connection piece. If you could tell me I could just have human connection and get paid for it, like that's great. For me, it just comes in the form of like houses, comes in the form of property, comes in the form of investments. And it's when I don't have that connection that it's really hard for me to like work with somebody because I'm like, we just don't get each other and we won't, I had a particularly bad one like 2 months ago where the wife was great and her and I were the ones that mainly talked. And then I get him and I'm like, this guy has a heart. He is not a good person. He's not kind. And then we got into escrow and it just, those problems multiply. It's probably my first cancellations in a very long time. I mean, even through COVID, I think I've probably had like 2 escrows canceled, 3 escrows canceled in probably a couple of years. And he was one of them. I was like, thank you. I told the other agent, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but he's not a good person. So you dodged a bullet. I'm just glad we found out now, That's just always a bummer to me because I thrive off the human connection piece of it. When we close an escrow, it's always like kind of a letdown because you're like, I gotta like leave you alone to unpack now and like do your thing. And, can we hang out?
And not talk for about a month?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You got your life.
Yeah. Give them some time. Right. So, but yeah, anywhere I can have that human connection, I'm glad about that. And I love the training aspect of it too. The fact that I can train other agents and do those things within our brokerage and within our team. It's super fun. We have a great team lead in Siri. She absolutely lets and empowers those of us that have been in it longer to train and mentor and love on those that are newer in the business. So,
how long have you been part of the brand?
This is more recently, April.
Okay.
So joined her in April. I had a team that I previously ran with my partner that I divested from in July of last year. Kind of floated around, did my own thing, kind of decompressed, needed the time, sold a lot of houses in 2020, 2021, even 2019. I mean, even working all the way up, like it's always just been like this, and now everyone's kind of doing this a little bit, which is great. But I just needed it. I needed that time. So then when I ran an event for Real Brokerage in late February, and Sharon Srivatsa spoke, and we had some really great guys come and speak and gals come and speak, people locally and people that flew in to speak. Andrew Brown, YouTube content creator. Siri and I really hit it off. Her organization skills, because I'm very clear. I'm like, I'm good at a couple of things: human connection and selling houses. Like past that, like my organization skills, like people joke that I'm the absent-minded professor. It's cool.
Okay.
I
can relate.
Yeah. It's got to be on my calendar. And like, if I can just have everything be one-stop shop to where it keeps my brain intact, that's great. Brain fog's a real thing. It's a whole nother story. And so like meeting Siri, we ended up just clicking because it was like everything I'm not good at. And I don't really care to be good at, to be totally honest at this point. Like I want to be serviceable, but I don't care that I'm a rock star when it comes to organization. I just either need someone who is a rock star at it, or I need programs and AI at this point that will do it. Right. And she was kind of just like that yin and yang feel. And I was like, let's do it. I'm stoked on it. It took me a couple months, but I just remember when I went to make that decision, I ended up like videoing with her on like a Friday, and I went to my wife. I'm like, all right, I think I've had my final meet up with Siri. What do you think? And she's like, I've been like waiting for you. I thought you should have done it like 2.5 months ago. And I was like, okay. Yeah, you're way ahead of me.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yes. So she's like, whenever you're ready. So yeah, that's when I joined the team, and it's been great since then. We're expanding. She does a lot of business in North County and in Carlsbad area, right?
Right.
We're a $500 million team. But Inland Empire, we wanted to get more love out that way because that's where I'm passionate about. Like Marietta is my bread and butter. I love my neighborhood. I love my street, and expand out from there. Right. Yeah, I love it. Some people are all about that. Like, if I could just sell $25 million properties in Bel Air, well, hey, that's not bad either. But at the same time, I love my neighborhood. That's where if I could just never leave like 25 streets in my city, I'd be stoked.
Well, with the way you're growing your brand, you never know. It might
goal,
be a possibility. Right?
I just want a Super 73 and just ride my bike around everywhere. But
everyone knows Justin.
Right?
Here comes
yeah.
Justin.
Yeah, just let me spray paint that bike a certain color and go from there. But yeah, so I joined her. It was the idea was, and it's getting fulfilled. We actually have our office opening tomorrow, our grand opening for our office in Marietta, our new office. And it's going to be really fun, but it just really represents where we're expanding to, and that we're showing a lot of love to that, and that's important too. I think San Diego, a lot of times, is the bigger market. And we're kind of like that backyard,
Right.
so to give it that love and that nudge and have Siri give it like a ton of attention and time and money and those things has been great. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks.
That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
You look, what are you looking forward to the most about the grand opening tomorrow?
Well, I mean, we're having tacos, so
Okay. There you go.
I eat Mexican food like
Enough
every
said.
day. So
Enough said.
yeah.
Can't go. Okay. Since you brought it down, well, we have a fun segment at the very, very end about tacos.
Yeah.
I'm really curious the spot to go to in Marietta.
What's your favorite kind of meat in a taco?
Oh, I'm come on, man. I'm a variety. It
Lingua
doesn't matter.
or what? Like
I'll take media. I'll take
Oh, yeah,
El
for sure.
Pastor.
Yeah.
I'll do all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not picky. Come
now
on,
we're talking
stop.
birria. We're talking like authentic goat birria, or we're talking beef.
Oh, I'm thinking beef. I
Yeah.
don't think I've tried the goat. I'll
Well,
have
that's
to.
good. Yeah.
You'll have to. We'll
Right?
make a lunch.
We'll have
date.
to find a place. Yeah, for sure. So
Oh, there's a couple
most people
places.
do beef, but yeah,
We're in the right hood
Yeah.
for tacos.
yeah.
We're gonna find some tacos.
There you go.
Like, where do you think we're headed with real estate in California? Or you could just talk about Marietta.
Right?
Yeah, just make it easy.
So like macro wise, like as an industry, I know there's lots of lawsuits going on right now, or a main lawsuit as far as like buyer's agent commissions and MLS and those things. That doesn't scare me. I'm actually stoked about that from the standpoint that if you look at like New York, right? Like they have a decentralized MLS and they sell a lot. And it's who that makes the biggest difference, right?
Right.
And so if that happened, I would be stoked. If we decentralized the MLS and it became a game of, and it truly would be a game of networking and who do you know?
Right.
Who do you know that has houses, has the most sellers? Like I would love it. I would thrive off that human connection piece because it makes it human powered, takes it off the MLS.
Right.
Syndication becomes a lot less sterile and a lot more, do I want to put it on Zillow? Do I want to put it on Redfin? Do I want to put it on Realtor.com? Some of those minor players that are kind of not good for the industry will be gone. Some of the stagnant realtor boards and MLSs will go bye-bye, or they'll be repurposed. And just
Right.
like with an economy, right? You see layoffs here and you see, addition here, right? AI is getting a whole lot of love right now. There's a whole lot of coders that got pulled off of, whatever, old car apps or cars.com, and they got laid off and they went to work for, ChatGPT or OpenAI. And so we repurpose the workforce. And hopefully we'll see a repurposing of some of these boards and MLSs if some of these lawsuits come down. So I'm not scared of that. I'm stoked. So in 5 years on a macro level for our industry, I don't know if that's going to be a big change, but it could be.
Right.
I would expect it to. Nothing stays the same. We'll probably also like buy with like NFTs and Bitcoin too, but
yeah, it'll be interesting times for sure.
yeah. For me personally, my biggest thing right now, I've actually slowed a little bit down sales the last month and a half.
Okay.
Or 2 months almost, just because I've been focusing on getting my YouTube philosophy and content up and running. I really personally, the next step for my brand is to have the most vibrant, balanced, community-based channel in Marietta, in the Marietta Valley. So kind of spills over in the Menifee, Wildomar, Marietta, and Temecula. So that's my goal. I want to have one of the most foremost authoritative channels for community-based activities, where to live, how your family could live there, showing a lifestyle of what Marietta offers, and really just create an attraction-based brand from that standpoint of when people type that in. That's the beauty of YouTube, right? Is it's connected to a little company called Google. So while you might build up your Instagram a crazy amount, when someone goes real estate Marietta, the first thing they're clicking on is IG. The first thing they're going to click on is not Facebook. It's going to be that YouTube video that pops up, living in Marietta with Justin McCabe, right? So I'm excited about that. That's where my personal brand is going. That's where it's going to be. My legacy is going to shelve itself. The industry, regardless of whatever the industry as a whole does, I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, that's I really like what you had talked about, is just focusing on that, telling the story of the city.
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
How come? So is there a need for that? Is there someone filling that need right now?
There's not. And that's the crazy thing, right? Is there's a lot of YouTube programs that teach you how to do a YouTube channel, and they give you templates, even for real estate agents, which I think is really bad.
Right.
Because like it's the same vanilla stuff. Nothing is vanilla, but like it's the same vanilla stuff. I could pick you out. You could show me a channel. I go, oh, that was this mentorship program. that's not going to get you, no one's going to resonate with that. And I'll be honest, it totally shows the amount of interaction communities that have not been created by people having channels. There's people with channels, with hundreds of videos on there. And I'm like, no one's commenting, liking, like you're not cultivating a community for your channel. It's not taking. So you got to like revamp your message and like figure out why you're doing this. And I don't see a whole lot of like community love in there. You can throw up your listing video like on YouTube, but like, that's just, no one cares. like my listing videos, sure, they go on my page because they're great. And I love my videographer and does a great job. But that's not the kind of content that's going to get someone to watch your page unless they are in action mode looking to transact and purchase a home.
Right.
And they're not probably looking at my page. They're probably looking at MLS. So it's pretty, but it's not effective. A lot of agents, they just fill with content and volume. Content. I'm a content creator. I'm like, but who's watching your content? And do they care? I could film a wall for 6 hours. It doesn't mean it's content. It doesn't mean anyone's going to watch it. Right? Like,
so what is you're talking about now content creation. That's Justin, most people, most guests that I've interviewed, they're not digging into the content creation. That's a whole different, I think people just recording content is a challenge.
Yeah.
Let alone actually thinking about how to get creative.
Yeah.
So what avenues are you using to get creative on what content you're going to repurpose, create? What is it that you do?
Finger paint, crayon. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the secret.
Right?
Awesome.
Yeah. Depending on the client, finger painting, they're like, yes, I need that. So I need it too. My YouTube coach would probably say finger painting would be something he should use with me. No, I would say the biggest avenues for me are the ones I'm naturally geared to personally consume and pick up, right? Like there's like we'll call them your junk food categories, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Right.
Threads, if anyone, the 5 people that use Threads still. Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much, but IG for me, Facebook for me, creating content on there through Meta. Meta's got some great tools, especially for IG. I think it's one of the easiest tools to edit reels and short form content on. And it's a great way to cut your teeth on content creation.
Yeah.
Because if you can get a message out and a hook out in the first 15 seconds and fulfill a promise of what you're saying with that hook, you can do long form generally. So yeah, I'm using Instagram and some of those things, and it's evolved for me. Like I would do voiceover things. I do funny things. I think they're funny. I would do funny things on there, self-depreciating things about my industry, whatever it might be. But now I'm seeing, because I have that confidence, I can create something people will watch, and it's validated through views, and you can see that. Now, views can be a vanity metric, but it's also just a way of seeing, do people resonate with my content enough to even watch 2 seconds of it?
I mean, I'm going to give you some feedback. When I've watched your content, it's very engaging. Like I feel like I'm connecting who you are as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-depreciating.
Freaking hilarious.
Right. I love them, man. It's
the robot, your pool robot. I'm like, just because, you know.
Just because.
It just gets you insight into who you are. Like what amuses Justin.
Right? Yeah. Thanks, China. $350 robot goes in my pool. Someone commented on my YouTube short when I put that on there, and they were like, get a dolphin, which is another brand. And I'm like, dude, that's like $1,200. Like, no. So I had to remind myself, don't get into like a pool robot war with someone on your comments on YouTube, right? I'm just like, why? So that was super fun. We love that thing.
I actually, you're one of the first people that stood out to me. I made a comment and it was about, you had posted like what's going to happen with the market. And then you actually asked a very thoughtful, I could tell it was you. It wasn't like your assistant, because I'm like, there's no way they would have asked me that question. And I think that's really where you engage your community.
Totally.
What's the funniest comment you've ever had in somebody put where it just pops into your head? You're like, that was fucking hilarious.
So one of my YouTube shorts, a guy commented and he goes, I think he said like my smile was disconcerting or something. It's just like, I forgot what it was about, but I was just smiling into the camera, and he's like, kind of like, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty weird. Like, thanks. And then I remember like a day later, I was walking by, I just talked to my wife about something and walked through the restroom to do something. And I looked in the mirror and I saw that smile, and I was like, whatever. It's me. It's my smile. I got to get used to it. People are going to say mean things all the time. And it wasn't even mean. It was just kind of like, it's a weird smile.
So are you going to get billboards in Marietta too?
No.
With the smile? No billboards?
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's probably a fast way to like, I'll talk to my coach about that of forced growth, right? You could do shorts, you could do a billboard.
Just throwing it out there.
Right?
Just throwing it out
I'll
there.
probably have people, if I put a QR code, they get all sorts of car accidents because they'll be like, I scroll 65 miles an hour.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you heard about this newest cake? I'm sorry, we're going off topic.
Yeah.
So have you seen like people will go out there at the parking lot and put QR code like stickers?
No.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, okay.
Like on your car?
No, okay, so at the parking lot when you're parking, they'll put a QR sticker so you can actually just go to the app.
Okay.
But there's people that are creating a QR sticker and putting it on top of there. So when you're transferring money, I'm like,
yeah.
what in the world?
Yeah. So there's
some interesting stuff.
Yeah, because there's like Spot Hero and stuff, the parking spots. If you go to like Gaslamp, you can like reserve a spot ahead of time. If you ever go to like a major city, it's actually really helpful. But it's like arbitrage. Well, I'm like, it's theft, but
Now I got to go check, make sure that there isn't a QR sticker. So just a tip for everyone, when you're taking pictures of the QR code, make sure it's not a sticker.
Yeah, make sure it's an actual parking spot you're paying for.
Let's wrap up with baseball. What are you? Is that your favorite sport? What do you? Yeah,
by far.
Hardcore.
Yeah, our whole family, like by far, we're really blessed. This last season, we made the choice to get season tickets for Petco, so that's been great. We've taken friends, introduced them to baseball, and I gotten to go with other friends and get to know people better, giving them to clients. It's been awesome. So taking our family as a whole, it's really just something we can bond over. The pitch clock sucks, but besides that, it's a great sport. So yeah, we love baseball. So I grew up actually as like a longtime Angels fan. My mom worked right off Gene Autry. Her boss used to give us, tickets to go see games all the time, like Diamond Club member. He was awesome. And my wife was not into baseball. So, and for me, it was like, I was always more of a casual fan but I did love baseball. And the Angels, like, besides, sure, like, I don't know, maybe Vlad or Salmon, when he left, that was really the last team that actually resembled anyone who could win.
Right.
Even with Mike Trout and Shohei, it's insane. So my wife really, when we moved to Marietta, she was like, okay, let's go to a game. So we went to Petco and she was hooked, like absolutely hooked. Got our kids hooked. Like she actually played a massive piece of that because it's like Disneyland for, baseball lovers and food lovers, beer lovers, michelada lovers, you name it. And so we ended up going there a ton. And then slowly it's like my kids' stuff they just love baseball. Like my youngest loves his Mariners hat. We went to Mariners game last year in Seattle and loves the Mariners. And, we love I still have massive love for the Angels, not for the owner, but, Seidler and Petco, like they just great ownership group. So, my wife ended up kind of switching our family allegiance, and I just went with it. I'm like, okay, if you're just gonna get everyone to love baseball, and my wife especially, like I'm in. So I do love the Angels. I hope they resurrect something, but Petco is just such an experience. The vibe there is, and the energy. I mean, last night we went last night. Me and my son. It's a Tuesday night. School's back in. It was probably 7/8 full. I mean, really? 42,000 person stadium on a random Tuesday, and everyone's like, let's go. The team's losing. They're going to be out of contention soon, but it's Petco. It's Padres,
It's baseball.
It's baseball.
It's baseball. I mean, San Diego's gotten used to losing. At least they're spending money now.
Yeah. I know. It's going to be such a heartbreak to see some of those guys go, though.
Yeah. You know what? It's like the Yankees have shown over the years you can't buy a championship. Like, you got to have cohesion, and it's impressive. Like I enjoy the smaller teams winning.
Yeah,
like Baltimore. I'm shocked this year. I'm like, whoa. Okay,
yeah.
Didn't even know they were back as a contender.
I'll be curious to see what the A's do. Going to Vegas and some of those things.
Yeah.
So, how's that going to affect them? I'm really excited for them.
I was actually talking to someone about like Vegas getting sports, and it's interesting. Like it's a great tourist destination. If you're a team, like from a marketing perspective, what better can you ask for than moving to Las Vegas? Like,
Well, and it really did take, I think, the familiarity with sports betting and America becoming more comfortable with that, and the federal
Right.
government becoming more comfortable with that, and the gaming commission with sports, and having a lot more of those, NFL, affiliations on sports betting and so forth. I think made it a lot more sense for Vegas to be a place, because before, I think, no one, I mean, the Pete Rose era, right? Like, no, you weren't going to put a baseball stadium in sports betting central, right? When we just like ejected Pete Rose for being like an amazing baseball player with some questionable, choices. But we've recovered from that era, and we'll see. So yeah.
That's Justin, where can our audience find you? I mean, we're gonna put all your handles.
Yeah.
You got the big grand opening coming yesterday.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
So really stoked on that. You can find me on Instagram at all my stuff is very the same. It's kind of started out as a joke. So it's Justin McCabe TV. So Justin McCabe TV, or you can just put in Justin McCabe Real Estate in YouTube. Find me on there. All my content's going to be Marietta related, Marietta Valley related, and some funny stuff too with like backyard of San Diego, because hey, we're only 50 minutes away from San Diego. So
I'm going to break it to you. You are actually funny.
Thanks.
I have laughed. I wouldn't have had you on if you weren't funny.
Well, you would have. We would have just been like, we're going to archive this one.
Yeah. Wow. That's harsh. We would never do that. We're way nicer than that.
I don't see my podcast. Yeah. Where's that?
Folks, this won't be the last time you're going to hear. Justin has huge things going on in Marietta, and he is going to be the go-to real estate agent in Marietta, because man, you have a great brand. You got a great family. You got a great work ethic. Like, I enjoyed getting to know you so much. So really, really excited that you came on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, my man.